What they're used to are ropes courses and trust falls. Things that didn't produce what they hoped they were going to because they didn't have the right expectations for it. Or the program was, let's put ping pong tables and bean bags in here and we're gonna have a good culture. You have to be more intentional with it. You have to be deliberate. And that's where we help companies understand that it's been team building, skill set enhancement versus bonding, relationship driven. You need them both to have the culture that you need.
Hey everyone, you're watching the Lively Charleston Podcast. Our goal with the show is to interact with and tell the stories of the amazing people, places, and businesses that make Charleston the best city in the world.
If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube.
And check us out on Instagram and Facebook where we post content regularly throughout the week. Thanks so much, guys. Hope you enjoy the episode.
Our guest on this episode is a true seeker. He prides himself on being a jack of all trades, a proud husband and businessman. He was literally raised in a barn and didn't have any neighbors until he was like 12 years old. He has 2 companies that help other companies and professionals get outside and to learn to work and communicate together. He truly lives a life on purpose and teaches others to do the same. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you to the owner of On Purpose Adventures and Nature's Adventures, Mr. Adventure, as you can tell by that jacket, Ben-Jamin Toy. Ben-Jamin Toy.
Excited to be here. Thank you. That's a great introduction.
Cool, man. No, I appreciate it. I pride myself on my intros, for sure.
Slip you 20 later.
All right, cool. Well, I want to start off by telling everybody like where I met you. I had the joy of like being on this Seacoast men's hike, and it was really, really interesting. They don't tell you anything about where you're going, what you'll be doing, how far you're going. It's just kind of like you've got to give it all up to God and trust. That's kind of part of the whole gist of the journey. And so Ben here was one of the leaders on my hike. Were you a leader?
No, I'm not.
You were just one of the guys.
I went there for me. It was my second hike. But yeah, I was not defined as a leader on the group.
Okay. So that tells everybody like what kind of a guy you are then, because I really thought you were one of the leaders. Because literally people, if something needed to be done, a fire needed to be made, anything like that, Ben was all over it. And I forget the style of fire that you were making.
Upside down fire.
Upside down fire. And I was trying to pay attention to how did you do this. And you take the logs and you go this way, and then you take some smaller kindling and go the other direction and kind of just build it up.
Starts like Jenga. So it's opposite, and smaller as you go. And somewhat maybe counterintuitive, but the idea is that you light the tinder, burns the kindling, heats and the coals fall down, and then it just works from the outside in or the inside out. We had lots of cold. It had rained that morning, so we had lots of wet and cold stuff going on. So it was a great way to do the resource management side of things.
Right. Okay, well, cool, man. But I found it fascinating. Yeah. I've always started the other way around.
There's reasons for all types of fires, and I really like that one in certain situations. Yep.
I totally get that. So how did you end up doing what you do?
So again, grew up outdoors, spent a lot of time outdoors, and didn't really want to go to college, but wanted to get away from home. And Clemson came calling as a junior in high school. So when I done with senior year, went there, mountains and lakes, did some hiking, loved the outdoor life, but kind of followed the path that was laid out. You're good at math and science, be an engineer. And so went into engineering, realized that that wasn't for me, and then have been with startups since 2004. And all the way into 2011, been with different companies. So living that corporate business life, outside sales, working at home, all those types of things with some flexibility, but still very much office-related work. And after 2 years of the one company I was with, I finally achieved sales numbers where I could get commissions because it was a big learning curve and everything. Mm-hmm. And for 6 months, they kept on pushing the bar down, and giving an excuse of why I wasn't going to get my commissions. And so I was part of a mastermind at the time. The guy said, well, what are you going to do about it? And I said, okay. And modeled some of the business originally after something he was doing, and literally put my notice in. They said, can you give us a month instead of 2 weeks? I said, sure. I don't have any money or a plan, so that works. And just said, hey, if I'm going to go fight for money, I'm going to go do it for myself.
Yep.
And so, I was running $350,000 a month in revenue as a sales guy for a trucking company.
No kidding.
And getting, no, we're not going to pay you this. We're not going to pay you that. So.
Yeah, that can be super frustrating, man, for sure. I totally get that. That speaks to me. I remember when I first moved here to Charleston, and I noticed that anybody who was working for somebody else here was scraping and scratching and clawing, or super stressed out. And then I'm not saying business ownership is not stressful. It's super stressful. There's a lot of things, of course, behind the scenes that will make you nuts. But I did notice that a lot of the people that I'd met along the way were professionals or business owners, own their own companies. And I was just like, okay, if I'm going to make it here,
large
that's what
majority.
I have to do.
Yep, large majority are here. And being with the companies that I've been with in Charleston is a lot of the reason why I do what I do, as far as bad culture, wanting to change that. Also how I run my company, robbing Peter to pay Paul with money and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, no, if you're transparent with your people, you get their buy-in and you get their trust, and yes, things can be tough, but you'll find out who you've got on your team.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, that's super important. Culture and how you present yourself and everything in the marketplace. You just got to be authentic.
Yep.
Authentic, and just I find that so many people with all the different avenues that we have social media, and it seems like everybody's putting their personal lives out there, like, oh, I'm awesome and I'm taking this vacation and all this stuff, but they're really just ducks on top of the water with their feet swimming like crazy. But I find that at least the influencers and some of the people that I see that are doing well, or claiming to do well anyway, are being absolutely transparent. Like, hey, I did this. Hey, I made this mistake, and this is what I learned from it, and I'm doing this now. So yeah, I don't know. I find that's really working in today's paint pretty picture society. Right. People want authentic and real.
There's a change in the marketplace as far as the workforce and then leadership. Old guard was, you trust me and I'm your leader because of things I've done in the past. These few people were with me there when I was cutting my teeth and making it happen, and so you're going to respect what I've accomplished. But the current workforce wants to know that you're still in it, you're in the hunt, and that you're slightly vulnerable and you're a real human. They don't want to be, you're not this in this glass tower, you're not removed from everybody, but that you do have an open door, that you are relatable. And that's a big dilemma for a lot of old guard. And I don't want to go into ageism, to talk about, okay, there's still plenty of people that are young that like, no, you're going to respect the hustle and nothing else. But that's not what the workforce, that's people are more they've seen their parents, they've seen their grandparents slave for companies to only be screwed at the end.
Right.
So
all they get is the gold watch at the end, right? Yeah.
And because now, even pensions that you worked for are now being eroded away and all that kind of stuff. So there is much more emphasis on quality of life while going through it. Not being reckless and not living a YOLO life where you're going to just squander things, because there's a balance between that. Because I'm also not much of a planner for the future. And here's the dichotomy between myself and my wife. She will manage the money amazingly well. I'll make it. But I've even struggled on a scriptural side of things of don't worry for things, right? You will get things taken care of. And I took that way. But it was some very wise individuals said, yeah, but it doesn't say don't plan for the future. Mm-hmm. It just says don't worry about.
Yep.
And for me, that was an aha moment of why I've made some changes in the last year and a half. Okay, well, I should plan for the future. I'm still just not going to worry about it. Yep. And that's a tough one, because when I started my business, it's part about not being controlled. So living on purpose to me is being intentional and deliberate with your time, your money, your actions, your words. I was controlled in a young life as far as the lack of money or location or all these things, and
Sure.
and that made choices have to be made because of these lack of in some cases.
Yeah.
And so my definiteness of purpose is help people to be victors instead of victims of whatever circumstances it is. And so if you've got that, you make decisions based on the merit of those decisions and not the money or the impact or the financial side of it. And so I'm going to just go with that, as far as a way that I'm going to operate.
Yeah. Do you mind if I'm going to still go into this kind of purpose? Because you and I are a lot alike. And in my questionnaire I sent out to you, you said you had some jobs that kind of pushed you or kind of like molded you to kind of where you are as a business person or where you are today. You mentioned one working for a pool company and the other being a grave digger, which I got to hear about that. So how did that?
So they're very intertwined. So I had started working in high school for my grandfather's restaurant, making money to be an exchange student for a month, and then I worked at a pizza shop. And then my break after my senior year of high school came up, and my mother found the ad in the classifieds was to be a pool installer, like an above-ground swimming pool installer.
Okay.
18, show up, and it's Crazy Vinny operating this pool company. Literally, scar from Harry Potter scar from the forehead down to his nose because a tree had fallen on him. So it's not he wasn't all there. But I'm 18 years old, and first day on the job, we have a 150-mile radius that we were going to install swimming pools for. So I had to show up at work 5:30, and we'd drive 2-3 hours sometimes before the job would start. And first day on the job, I'm at the base of a hill, and he's talking to the customer and said, "Go bring the Bobcat skid loader up the hill." I mean, this is a 20% incline hill. That's challenging in its own. Turning on a Bobcat with no instructions, that's very old with no writing on it. So I somehow figured out how to preheat the diesel, turn it on, unstrap it from the trailer, get it down, and go up the hill. First day on the job.
Wow.
No instruction. Second day on the job, I'm driving that F-350 dump truck with that trailer, with that Bobcat through the streets of downtown Pittsburgh.
Oh, Lord.
Pittsburgh has bridges that the signs are above you, and you've got very few you have very little distance before you got to make changes and all that. So it was those environments that made me comfortable and confident in things that I can do, and realize that, okay, I can stretch my boundaries, I can learn. And so for me, dealing with folks that I don't know how to do this or not trying before they ask questions just doesn't work for me. Mm-hmm. I'm going to Google it the same way. I'm going to attempt the same way. I want you to have attempted for a while before you come asking, right? Because I want you to learn through that process of figuring things out. And it's simple as just like opening up a table that is a unique way of a folding table or something.
Sure.
But so I learned to work on that the skid loader, the Bobcat. Well, from day one, by the end of that season, I was grading a land that started off at 5 feet off of grade to be within a quarter inch without a level or that kind of thing. Wow. So because I got good at working the Bobcat, the owner, Crazy Vinny, also dug graves for his church. I was like, "Hey, you want some extra money?" So it became the thing that I did, and yes, I dug graves and was had to be there before, be there after, and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So that was a very interesting growth curve of summer. First year of college, come back to start the job again, and we were paid. And here's where I learned performance and efficiency doesn't pay in some cases when you're an employee. Mm-hmm. And we got paid by the job. We got paid $84 per pull.
Okay.
Good or bad? I mean, this is 1999, right?
Yeah,
and
I get that.
So $84 per job per pull. Well, how long does a pull take? Well, it's a great question. Getting started with Vinny, it would take a day. We did a pull a day. So I made $84 for the day. Well, second summer, I'm running my own crew. He made it clear that I get paid per pull. So if it took me 2 days because of a bad job or hard difficulty, we still got paid the $84. Well, the fact that I could now get a pool done in 3 hours, and he would ask me then to run errands and all this kind of stuff at the end of the day, I'm like, no, like I got to this point where I'm efficient.
Give me another pool.
We would sometimes do 2 pools in a day, and max sometimes 3 pools in a day. So now I'm 240 some dollars in a day, but then he'd want me to spend 5 hours running errands. And I'm like, we can do that if we're going to talk an hourly scenario. So same scenario. I worked for an automotive company later, and I work on this project that involves Excel updating, and it took 20 plus hours of getting input from people to update this document for people. We had an ice storm. I got to work and taught myself how to do macros on Excel. Turned what used to take 20 hours into maybe 60 seconds of work.
Wow.
By linking everything and doing all this stuff. I figured, hey, I'm now off on Fridays because I've saved all this time and then I figured out how to get more work. So figured if you're going to get rewarded for efficiencies, you either have to have management and a boss that appreciates that or work for yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, tell me more about On Purpose Adventures and where it's going.
Oh, where it's going. Probably got to start at the beginning, though. It started off as planning trips, whitewater rafting, hiking, things like that. You plan an event 6 months in the future, though, you got to figure out how to make some money in between that because you can't live on that money. Right? Or you've got some...
You can't spend it till you have it, right?
Yeah. Because if the event gets canceled or whatever, it becomes an issue. So we morphed into adventure-based bachelor and bachelorette parties, what we called mother-in-law approved. We'll throw a party you won't forget with pictures you won't regret. So that became our thing, and way before a lot of the craze of bachelor bachelorette's party, we were the go-to place here, with a little bit of corporate stuff along the way. And then a few years ago, we said we need to make the change here because ultimately I also want to travel the world with Water Mission and doing wells and also getting underprivileged youth out having outdoor adventures. So we focused more on the leadership and the team building and bonding side of what we do so that we can have the money, start a foundation, and then take kids out and have these experiences that I had as a child. And we realized that's really where we wanted to go with it. Last year happened. We realized that our model sucked. We were in-person events, so we were not diverse in any way, right?
Okay.
April of last year, 2020, we had multi-100-person events in April. So not only did we lose the event, we had refunds because they were within the cancellation windows of all these things, and realized, okay, there had to be some change. So it took us a while to create some virtual content that delivered to the standard that we wanted to deliver. Not just doing virtual happy hours and things like that. Right.
And that costs money too, right. I can imagine.
So it took some time for that. Had a great Zoe on my team, was qualified for some unemployment, and then said, if I'm getting paid, I'm going to work. So she worked for 3 or 4 months unpaid.
Wow. So
when I got EIDL loan, she got back paid, and it was a good summer for her. But that's the commitment that we've also been able to have. So where we realized from last year, along with strategic alliance with Dr. Troy Hall, is we now have a leadership development program, one that's in person, virtual, but also an online course that companies are putting their whole teams through. His book is called Cohesion Culture. He tells the story of what, or kind of packages what the South Carolina Federal Credit Union has done over their last decade of winning all these awards of best place to live, work, best culture, things like that. And we have created a leadership course that has helped companies do that with their teams as well. Some really cool things that have come from that can't quite share yet, but it's really amazing what this course is doing in the corporate sector right now.
Yeah, I can imagine. It is. Are you seeing a lot of companies kind of adopt like the old guard, right? And maybe that's what you might be trying to do is kind of get the old guard into a growth mindset, buzzword growth mindset type of culture.
So I literally had this conversation the other day of there almost has to be 2 conversations at hand depending on overall mindset of the business owner and management, right? One is it's the right thing to do to take care of your people.
Yep.
There's another spectrum of, well, they're disposable, whatever. So we have to talk to them from the monetary aspect, and then it makes sense that it's going to cost you money to lose your people, especially right now with the Great Resignation and all this stuff. It costs you 50% of a person's salary to rehire someone new, plus the delay in finding them, onboarding, all those things. So if I can't get to them in the sense of, well, you need to take care of your people because they're people, I can talk to them, well, it's going to cost you money. So whatever their motivation is, we can force them to have a better company, and they have to have buy-in. We have to start top down. You can't do cultural change. You can't have a good program of team building, which are the bricks of a good foundation, and bonding, which are the mortar. You need them both. You can't have that without a top-down buy-in. And so even if it only is financial, they will see the change of why it makes sense logically to go that route. And so we are seeing that change. Now, there is resistance. And because I also come from an engineering ground, working this with several clients, is I like to start a lot of my sessions with, I know what you're saying, team building, you're probably arms crossed, lip poked out, so negative if it was a dark room you would develop, right? And you're showing your age just by laughing at that joke. But what they're used to are ropes courses and trust falls and things that didn't produce what they hoped they were going to because they didn't have the right expectations for it. Or the program was, let's just go do these things. Let's put ping pong tables and bean bags in here and we're going to have a good culture. You have to be more intentional with it. You have to be deliberate. And that's where we help companies understand the difference between team building, skill set enhancement versus bonding, relationship driven. You need them both in a certain combination consistently to have the culture that you need.
Okay. Tell me some of these adventures that you put together. I want to, tell the people, like, what are some of the cool things you've done? You mentioned one to me when we were on the hike. You did like a paintball war of some sort, and that you found it interesting. Tell me what was interesting. Tell the listeners what was about the ammunition or whatever.
Oh, okay. So specifically in that aspect. So we've done a lot of paintball. That's what we cut our teeth on. We used a lot of the paintball facilities locally. And in one case, we made it a survival scenario. Are you talking about that one where we taught them how to orienteer with compass. And they had if they got to the right location using the right degrees, the right steps, they got the certain amount of ammo. But we actually had the card on the back side of the tree. 10 degrees off and 20 feet closer, we had a card saying you get 500 paintballs versus the 1,500. So we got to show them, did they get distracted on where they think they were going or doing the right thing and getting 3 times more of the reward?
Wow.
So that was a pretty fun one. Now we do a lot more combat archery, which is dodgeball with bows and arrows, less welts, more gender neutral and friendly, and very mobile. So it's not as messy as well. So, and that one we actually have games that build strategy into it as well. So combat archery is one of our biggest team bonding experiences, along with custom and, scavenger hunts.
Okay.
Have an app that is an engagement platform. And we've produced these in downtown Charleston, Denver, Atlanta, Vegas, Cabo, Hilton. Wherever you want to be, we can have a scavenger hunt. And it also makes escape rooms and fun games and a game called Code Breakers. So if it's too hot, indoor, you have a virtual remote team. We created these experiences now that doesn't matter how your company is set up. We can facilitate some sort of bonding or building program for them to everybody to be included.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's so you can go so many different places with what you do. I mean, literally, like geographically, you can go different places, but with just ideas and things that you do is just, you can go, the sky's the limit. And I just think it's fascinating. So cool. So you and I met on this hike. And we had, so many different stories that people have. I found it fascinating. And you kind of mentioned in the questionnaire that I got you that you were super proud for being in your relationship for as long as you are. So what I'm going to say, one word, marriage. What is that to you?
It is something that I never expected to happen, just because I know, being fairly self-aware, stability and security. I even literally, it comes up every year, a post that I made just before I met my wife. Said, I envy the woman that wants to try to marry me when stability and security are not high on the list. And that is the top 2 things that are on Dana's list, right?
Oh, yeah. On most women.
On most women's, right. And so, and I literally just made a post today about it was 9 years ago yesterday morning that I woke up from being home free. I don't want to trivialize homelessness, but for a 9-month period in 2013, between 2012 and 2013, I didn't know where I was going to sleep each night and building, and that's a whole other story. But so from marriage aspect, I didn't have money to date, so I literally had these conversations early. And I was in my 30s, so I knew what I wanted, and I said, look, if you want to do the traditional things of like eating or doing activities that cost money, you're going to pay for both of us. So again, most guys are posers when it comes to this, and they try to wine and dine and all this kind of stuff.
Totally.
And I knew who I was. I knew what I was doing and what I was going to do. So I was okay with here's what I had a 3-tone colored minivan. Green, silver from a wreck, and rust. Okay? With no muffler.
Nice.
And she would ride in it. And there's so many women that wouldn't do these things. And now we're able to do some amazing things. And but I said I came with great perks.
Yeah.
And so that's the big thing is, dating Mr. Adventure or whatever. And that was just a branding thing that I live out, I guess. But
hey, 40-inch vertical.
Yes,
that's something.
Yeah. So it was great. There was a point where I literally could touch rim without running.
Yeah.
And then I destroyed both ankles in both football and baseball. So, but I still am the amazingly fast fat guy on my football. When I played flag football, it was shocking. So
just a flash, just running by.
Got these little legs. They just move.
The whirling dervish.
Yeah. But the marriage thing, Dana is incredible and amazing to put up with me and my mindset, and her realizing that just because I come up with all these ideas, like it actually took several years for her to realize that me blaring out these ideas as an entrepreneur, I didn't actually intend to do most of them. Mm-hmm. I do vet them before I actually execute and all that. So what she's really helped me do is understand, okay, how I actually am going to be profitable and how we're going to do this. And without her, we wouldn't have got through last year. Right. She managed our money so well going into pandemic time periods, but we came out of it ahead in one area and learned so much because of how good and how forward-thinking she is.
Right.
If I was left to my own devices,
day by day,
I would have been in a very different scenario.
Yep.
So.
Yep. She's the yin to your yang.
Well, I would have walked out of the leases that I just come find me.
Right.
It would have been a very different scenario.
Yeah.
So.
Man, lucky guy.
Yeah.
And
sales guy.
And guys, not only is Mr. Adventure he's awesome at his business and what he does and coming up with these he's great for date ideas. I've already booked. Booked the Navitate.
Oh, no.
Navitat.
Nice.
Yeah, already done. So yeah, I'm super excited about that. But so yeah, man, it's just been really, really cool. I really love what you do, and you have some passions as well. So you love to travel, and then you and your wife both, which I think is awesome. And of course, being Mr. Adventure and what you do, you get to do that for work, right?
Yeah.
But I think you mentioned water missions. Mm-hmm. You do stuff with them. Can you tell me about that?
I've actually been working in them, and for 10 years. Like literally met a guy met a woman on a plane 10 years ago. Actually, literally 10 years ago when I was raising money for Alzheimer's for my 30th birthday, and I turned 40 in 2 months. And I talked to her about what I was doing. It was the penny up challenge. Literally, I took a penny and turned it into $multi-thousand of money raised. And she knew somebody that funded water wells in Arizona for Native American tribes.
Okay.
Well, they connected with water missions. They funded 3 Uganda wells. So anyways, we want to do more of that. We want to travel and do that, which is pretty exciting.
That is.
But one other fun thing is that we met on the ramp of Nature Adventures on Shem Creek, both doing our part-time jobs. I was a part-time guide. She was a part-time photographer.
Okay.
I put her in my boat. And, they say tandem, it's the counseling boats, right?
Yeah.
It worked because she didn't have a paddle to start with. And then, 3 years, so I did the whole tour backwards so she could see everybody. And then eventually, 3 years later, we bought the business and we can paddle well together now. So there is hope for people.
There you go. There's hope. So how can everybody find you?
The social platform is mainly LinkedIn, Ben-Jamin Toy. So it's Ben-Jamin Toy. And then onpurposeadventures.com is the main website to find any team building, bonding related activities.
Well, awesome, man. Ben, thank you so much for being here, telling all your MacGyver stories and adventure, and then super excited about everything you're doing with your business. And I'm sure it's going to be a success, man. Thank you so much, brother.
All right.
All right.
Hey y'all, that's a wrap on today's episode. Thanks so much for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to like or follow or subscribe, whatever platform you're on, just hit the button to make sure you don't miss any future episodes.
Yep, and please help us grow the channel by sharing it with someone else who might enjoy it as well. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.